I've been planning on making this video for a while, but due to me being just lazy, I've been putting it off for like a month. But Golden Kamuy. I kind of feel that Golden Kamuy is a very straightforward manga, and the main goal of it is really just one big treasure hunt to find some gold. And the only way to get this gold is to solve a code that is tattooed onto 24 criminals. So yeah, a treasure hunt. But through this goal of having to find criminals to break a code, you really get introduced to a whole bunch of weird and interesting characters, and a lot of the criminals, they're very just weird, most of them are. But there are a few cool ones, like Shiraishi. He's called the Escape King, and yeah, he's funny. And so with this premise, a lot of problems really start to arise just from the criminals alone. A lot of the criminals who got tattooed were put in jail for different reasons. Some of them very, very bad reasons, but some of them not super bad, I guess you could say. But also, there's another group of people that are going after this gold, an entire division from the army. And so you kind of get these three factions of people. You get the main characters, Sugimoto and Asurpa, and also the criminals, and who else? The army people, the 7th Division. The criminals are led by this one guy, are mostly led by this one guy called Hijikata. At least some of them are. He's a pretty cool dude. I guess he was part of the Shinsengumi, and yeah, he just seems cool, but also he's old. But most of the time, these three groups aren't really all black and white. A whole bunch of characters from each side are constantly just betraying one another and coming up with truces. So it really creates an interesting conflict throughout the story. And it all kind of leads back to, getting the gold, and really just what will you do once you get this gold? 75 tons of gold, which is around today like $3 billion. But some of the things that make Golden Kamuy stand out from other mangas are some of its like cool, unique things that it does is one, the time period. It's after the Russian-Japanese War. But I'd say the biggest point, or the biggest thing that Golden Kamuy just dives deep into is the Ainu culture, everything to do with that, and just how things are changing throughout Japan. It really just creates a pretty cool setting that you don't really get to see a lot in manga and anime and stuff. Also, it's probably one of the number one contenders for being one of the gayest mangas in the anime and manga world, and JoJo has a competitor. But going on about the Ainu people and stuff, we really get to see, or really get to look into the Ainu culture and, some of the things they do through one of the characters, Asurpa. She's constantly teaching Sugimoto just some of the things that the Ainu people do, some of the traditions, beliefs, and it really just is an interesting side to this story because there's just so much going on. I also just love how Asurpa develops throughout the story and some of the things that she has to come to terms with and resolve herself for. She's a fun character, and also kind of funny too when it comes to teaching Sugimoto some of the things about the Ainu and feeding him brains and stuff. I kind of think that Asurpa is actually a zombie because she just loves eating brains for some reason. But going more into Sugimoto, the actual main character of Golden Kamuy, he is a very tragic character, and some of the things he's been through. His whole family died from tuberculosis. His best friend died saving him in the war he was in. And then there's the whole reason he's trying to find the gold. It's to help his best friend's wife, who's a widow now, make sure he's able to, give something back to her, repay his debt with his best friend. And also just being in a war, that's probably just tragic enough as it is. And I really just love the way he's used throughout the story with how he ties into one of the themes about war and just the effect war can have on people. That is one of the major things that gets played upon with a lot of the characters, and especially the people from the army, the 7th Division. But I remember one of the most memorable moments throughout Golden Kamuy has to be the chapter where Asurpa and Sugimoto, they're inside a dare right next to each other so they don't freeze to death. And Asurpa is talking about food, and she asks Sugimoto what's his favorite food. And Sugimoto says that his favorite food is dried persimmons, and he says that he hasn't ate any since the war started. Asurpa says that maybe once he eats dried persimmons again, he'll go back to how he was before the war started. And what makes this part so memorable memorable and probably one of my favorite parts throughout the story is Sugimoto. He just starts crying. It's such a sad moment, very bittersweet, and it just shows a very vulnerable side, which is something I feel like a lot of very tragic characters have, like Guts and Thorfinn, Musashi. Also, someone else who ties into, the whole war theme has to be the person leading the army faction, the 7th Division, First Lieutenant Tsurumi. He really is the main antagonist of the story and kind of reminds me of Makima in a way because of just how manipulative he is of the people in the army and the way he goes about things and getting people onto his side is just very Makima-like. And just the way he goes about doing things, it kind of made me feel like he was very cold-hearted, and I mean he is, but I also thought he was emotionless or, something like that. And I mean he could very well be, but after we learn his backstory, a lot more reason is given to his actions. I'd say that he's a solid antagonist. Really though, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about with Golden Kamuy and some of the characters. I mean, I really only talked about 3 of them, but I guess the last thing I want to touch on has to be the ending. And really just with any series, the last impression or the last thing you're gonna remember about a series is the ending, and if it was good, if it was bad, whatever. And after the Tokyo Revengers endings I feel like have become a lot more important. And Golden Kamuy, it definitely has a good way of wrapping things up. It's very satisfying with the way things ended with Sugimoto and Asurpa, and especially some of the side characters like Ogata. I really was hoping that Tanigaki had a good ending with Inkarmat or whatever her name is. But yeah, a lot of situations with the side characters and stuff really pay off in the ending, and a whole lot of mysteries and stuff that were built up throughout the story. It had a pretty good way of wrapping things up. I did feel that things were a little bit rushed, and actually I kind of found out that things probably were rushed due to some exhibit going on, or the mangaka Noda Satoru. He kind of said that things were a little bit rushed, but yeah, still the ending, it was very good. It's pretty ironic that, my last video, my most recent video was about Kingdom. A large part of Kingdom is about earning achievements through war, and after reading Golden Kamuy right after Kingdom, it's ironic because Golden Kamuy is just showing the after effects of what war can do to a person and just how devastating it can be. Sugimoto, he's definitely a good protagonist, and I just love everything with the war and the Ainu people throughout the story, and the way Asurpa has to come to a decision about the future of the Ainu people and just some of the indigenous people from Japan or surrounding Hokkaido. It makes the story so much better. I don't think Golden Kamuy would be in my top 20 or anything, but I definitely say that Golden Kamuy is a great read nonetheless. I know this video was pretty messy and probably weird. I mean, that's pretty much the norm for most of my videos now, but it's 2 a.m. I'm starting to get a bit tired. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one, and peace.